Welcome to the Value Wrestling Podcast. I'm the big time BT Baldwin. This is my tag team partner, Hollis Clark. And we are here to give you the best value in pro wrestling sports entertainment today. We are here to be a part of the IWC community, the best. We vow to put the value back into wrestling. Welcome to the Value of Wrestling Podcast. I'm the big time BT Baldwin. This, of course, is my tag team partner,
Hollis Clark.
Yeah. And we're here. And we're here again for our United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live weekly review. This is a pay-per-view event, as they call it. Very reminiscent of the days when TNA started off. But I don't know if you can compare apples to oranges. So,
No.
How do you feel about tonight's episode of Primetime Live?
There's a lot of things you can say that TNA did wrong, even in the early days. But their worst show was better than what we saw. I can't even talk. This is how much I hate their presentation.
Yeah.
I tried to be, very optimistic, especially with the first episode. Something brand new, give them a shot. I mean, you had Nick Aldis as the NWA World Champion versus Mike Bennett. They built the story at least decently.
They built the story.
Pretty good.
They built the story. I'll give you that, but the taste at the end kind of was like, nah. I mean, I don't know.
I understand it was good enough to get you into the door. But tonight's episode, on paper, the main event is still worthy of getting you in the door. But the undercard just, oh my god.
It's almost like they do it backwards. I'm sorry. If they would have put the Thunder Rosa Priscilla Kelly match on first, maybe I would have been a little more excited. Putting on the end, I know it was the main event, and I get that, and it was a fairly decent match, but still, I don't know. And then again, we also had this weird conclusion of last week's match. Nick Aldis won to Mike Bennett passing out, but we make no reference. I mean, they talked about it, but they didn't do anything to continue on what's going on there. And this week was I don't know. If you needed to, if you have insomnia, I would recommend watching this episode right as you go to bed. Go lay down in your bed, turn your TV on, turn this on, and I will guarantee you, within a short little while, probably after the first match with Who and Who, you'll be ready to pass out. And you'll be lucky if you can make it to the Watts Eli Drake match. But again, it was something I don't even know what to tell you.
I came into these weekly pay-per-views with so much hype because I'm a big fan of NWA Power and the way they did their presentation, everything, the way that it was booked, everything about it has its charm. It's if you're a WWE fan and you're a strong WWE fan, it might not necessarily be your taste, but it does have its audience, it does have its charm. So knowing that the NWA is partnering is partners with the United Wrestling Network, I was expecting, and even during NWA Power, not Marquez, I'm trying to think EW. What is the dude's name? I'm blanking, I'm sorry.
It happens. I don't even know.
It's the interview guy. David Marquez? I think that's the name. I
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't pay much attention to the interview guys. Because we went. Go ahead.
My point is, some of the people in UWN have also worked in NWA Power.
Yeah.
As far as the backstage, the interview guys, etc. So I would have thought there would have been more synergy. But I mean, then again, last I heard, Billy Corgan doesn't really have that much to do with these shows. And the powerhouse that ran NWA Power was Billy Dave Lagana, who had stepped down as vice president.
Yeah.
Which is why Power and Cardiland aren't happening right now.
Well, I don't know. We went from a three-man team or a three-person team last week to a two-person team because the other guy was in the field and
Joe Galley,
was in south of Austin, somewhere in Texas. I don't know. I've been to Austin. I've been to Killeen, Texas. I spent like 2 months in Killeen, Texas, or Fort Hood to say, but I know where Austin is. Been through there. But he was south of Austin in Texas on an undefined place. And this weird, I don't even get what that was about, but we'll get there when we get there because that was really confusing to me about what it didn't make sense. But I know tonight.
All you need to know about that is they were just trying to hype Thunder Rosa.
But
that's all it was.
It didn't make sense. Like, look at all her fans. I mean, it was like, this is like out of the blue. Like, I get you're trying to get Thunder Rosa over and showing her fan base, but you didn't have like Thunder Rosa out there with her fans. You were just.
You didn't. I saw her. You didn't.
No. I saw her like pop up on the screen in the interview, but I didn't see her with the fans.
No, she was in the video package that Joe Galley had been a part of.
I don't know. I was kind of.
Because she was with a little girl. She had her mask partly off.
Maybe there was a quick scene, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It was like, I don't know, it was confusing to me, and I'm like, why are we harping Thunder Rosa this way? And they did nothing for Priscilla Kelly, so it was just like, you're Thunder Rosa, and Thunder Rosa's good, yes. I get the hype, but, you know, I don't feel like...
Priscilla Kelly, you would either have to know her from the Indies or know her from her few spots in AEW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just felt like it was all Thunder Rosa. Like, you knew Thunder Rosa was going to win going into it, so, I mean, I was like, and it was just so weird. Like, I don't know, I guess they were trying to do, like, that hometown Thunder Rosa... kind of spin-off, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is this is a new program, right? This is episode 2 of a new program. It doesn't seem like they're helping, they're like just throwing you in the middle of this, and you're going, okay, Thunder Rosa, cool. For the new fans, and I'm being one of them, the new fans to this whole group, because obviously it's NWA, it's Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I guess there's connections to New Japan and the LA dojo in there. So there's a bunch of people who have come together and are allowing stars to come do this program, but this thing is like separate from over here. Even though belts are being defended, it's still supposed to be like the separate thing. But if it's a new episode or it's a new program with a new identity, I would think they'd be building more to help us identify who these superstars are. And that video package is just like, okay, is this her hometown? Is this just fans? I mean, what is going on here that they weren't very clear about? It's kind of like how they introduced a lot of the people. I'm like, okay, who is this person? Like, first match of the night, we got into what they said was a rematch from last week, which was very confusing because it was Danny Limelight Rivera taking on Kevin Martinson, who, and they kept telling us that it was a rematch from last week, but they weren't on the episode last week that I know of, so if it was a dark match or on something else, I'm very confused from the get-go, number one. Then they kept calling Kevin Martinson BHK, and I don't know who BHK is, and what
it stands for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, how can you call somebody, and he wasn't introduced in any shape or way or form for this episode under that moniker, BHK, or whatever BHK may stand for. He was introduced as Kevin Martinson. So I'm like, why are the announcers calling him BHK continuously? They rarely called him Kevin or Martinson, maybe every here and there, but it was like they kept calling BHK. I'm like, who's BHK? Give me some feedback on who this BHK. You're supposed to be a new program bringing these stars around, and even if you're working with these different organizations and trying to give them a spotlight, I think the thing they're hurting themselves on, they're not giving anybody who might be new to this program or who may be going, hey, this is new, I'm going to give it a try, any of the background information on some of these stars here, which is what I think the commentator team should be doing partly during these matches, especially how freaking long this match was.
Yeah.
And then it was just long. I mean, there was only that one weird. There was one weird move in all that. He went out for a dive while Rivera was outside the ring, and Masterson came diving out, tried the foot stomp, and missed the foot stomp. Landed on the ground, went to the guardrails, and then came back, and then Rivera backflipped Masterson into the ropes. And I was like, was that a move? Was it accidental? What was going on there? It was Another confusing thing, and then they had let's see what Masterson reverse Razor Edge Rivera out onto the ramp there, and then hit him with the brainbuster on that ramp, rolled him back in the ring, got a 1-2-3. And I'm going. So are there no rules in this organization? Are we saying Primetime Live? There's no rules. Just go do whatever you want. I mean, there was like no counts going. There was no. It was just like, I don't know. It was confusing.
In a spot where there's no rules, when Raw Underground looks better than this, and we complain, a fair amount about Raw Underground. Well, not we, as in you and I, but I'm saying the overall IWC, goes back and forth on it.
No, I know. Yeah, and it's a damn shame. But I mean, this was crap. I don't know who these two guys are. You told me this guy's one name, and you told me he was BHK that whole match, thanks to the commentating team. And it just looked like an overran clusterfuck. I mean, it was hard to, stay awake and swallow it down. It was just like, okay, can we get...
With the inconsistencies in booking also, it's there's no reason for us to invest in these people.
No. Well, and you're not giving me any history on these people enough. I mean, if you're going, this is BHK. What's BHK? What does this stand for? Why does he have this moniker? Why are you calling him BHK? If you've introduced him to me as Kevin Martinson, that's what he came down to the ring as. No pre-moniker, no nickname, no anything else. It was just Kevin Martinson, which I hope I'm not butchering that name. But anyways, and then the announcer, Alyssa, mostly was like, oh, it's BHK, it's BHK. Every time, BHK did this, BHK. I'm like, who I wanted to grab her by the neck and go, who to BHK? Not in the violence thing, but just tell me what you're talking about, because I don't understand. BHK means nothing to me. And this guy means nothing to me. No offense to this guy. He may have some talent. He seems to be a veteran on the independent scene, obviously. But I'm still I don't know who you are, and you didn't do a whole lot to make me go, I want to know who you are. And of course, now I'm more antagonized because Alyssa kept calling you BHK, and nobody told me who BHK is, so I'm even more frustrated with you as a character. Oh, then the long match of the night that was just oh Jesus, I expected more out of this. It did have somewhat of they did preach the storyline, but we're talking about Watts, just Watts, not Eric Watts, not Nathan Watts, just Watts, not megawatts, not gigawatts, but Watts taking on.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then we had him taking on Eli Drake. They did talk about these two guys being a friend. There was a friendly back and forth for the beginning part of it. And then Watts pretty much dominated the whole match. They pretty much told the story. Watts was the bigger powerhouse of the two. Eli Drake definitely looked like the underdog in the whole match. And it was a very long match. It was a very slow match. It was very repetitious. I felt like it was just kind of like they were doing the same things over and over again. I mean, Watts did a fall away slam 4 times on Drake, and he kept getting up. So I'm like, well, they're trying to make it sound like it's impressive, but he did it 4 times, and Eli Drake keeps getting up. In the end, Eli Drake wins because Watts was standing over him, parading around, getting too confident, which I guess is the storyline they're trying to tell, where he had lost the Heritage title to whatever the dude's name was that I can't remember. Yes, because he was too confident, and in the night, his too cocky, too confident, arrogance, whatever you want to call it, got the best of him as Eli Drake pulled out the win. I even forget how Eli Drake finished the match. I didn't even write it down. It was just kind of...
the Gravy Train, his finishing maneuver.
That's right. It was James Storm 8-second ride, or whatever he called it, and they kept saying Gravy Train, but I didn't make that connection as that's what he was calling the finishing maneuver, because I was like, Gravy Train? I'm like going, okay, I get the idea of Gravy Train, and then there's Gravy Train dog food, but if an finishing maneuver calling Gravy Train, I guess I just don't know where that connection for Eli Drake to have the Gravy Train as his moniker to his finishing maneuver.
If you listen to his promos, not from these 2 shows from UWN, but again, going back to Power, even going back to TNA, it's been a while since you've seen Eli, so I understand why you may not necessarily remember.
Yes. So...
there was something I was going to say, though. I don't know. I'm an Eli Drake fan, but... Oh, what I was going to say was actually, So last time you and I had gotten together to shoot one of these reviews, before we actually got to the show, you were in the middle of writing, so I understand if you don't remember or didn't see it. But I did put on an episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and that was actually the episode where Watts lost his hair.
No, I remember that match. I just didn't know if that was separate from everything because I was confused, or if we actually watched that on the episode, because that was the same day we watched the last episode of UP.
Right.
Yeah, Wrestling Network. So
that's what they were referencing now.
no, I at least got that because I remember seeing it, but I didn't know if it was part of the show or if that was something separate because we watched it in the same night. But no, they had kind of the storyline. They definitely made Drake look kind of like the underdog, and then he came back and got the win. But I don't know, it was really long. To me, I don't think it did anything for either guy. I mean, yeah, you could say Watts got that confidence issue continuing the storyline, but he's the only person that we've seen like twice, right? He's the only person that was on last week's show, I believe. So, out of everybody.
Correct.
So, from there, we moved into an interview with Priscilla Kelly. It was a decent interview. I don't know her well enough to say much more than it seemed like a decent interview.
Everything you need to know about Priscilla Kelly is in her moniker.
Yeah.
Hell's favorite harlot.
So she did her interview, and then we got into the tag team match. And even these names were like, what? Like, I'm just like, where do you come up with these names? Like, who was writing this garbage? Is this like a stooge of some troll wanting to be the future Mr. Vince McMahon, or is he kissing that? Because Real Money Brothers, Big Money Clutch, and R&B Suge.
I don't like the names, but I'm actually okay with the gimmick, if that makes sense.
Well, I get the gimmick, even though the gimmick kind of feels like a spin-off of the Street Profits.
I would say among a lot of other tag teams that have been...
Yeah, no, I mean, Primetime and all the rest go right into that whole flavor. So they took on the...
All Money is Legal.
Yeah,
that was nitty, like,
then they took on the team of Friendship Farm, which I was just like, what? Gentleman Jarvis.
That's where I wanted to rage quick, was that match.
What?
Because, like, that whole Gervais and that tag team, Friendship Farm, I'm just like...
And he used to be a tag team champion with somebody else as their friendship get-together. I don't know. Huh?
The commentator said Gervais was part of another tag team at one point called Friendship Express.
Yes.
If I recall right.
Yes, you're right. So this was Gentleman Jervis. The guy was in a I don't know, made me think maybe Christopher Daniels was under the mask, but he had the gold mask with the funky beard and tights with fuzzy sheepskin crap on it, and he tagged up with probably one of the fattest guys I've seen since Bastion Booger in WWE, who was Sweet Robin Shaw. I think I caught Sweet Robin Shaw. Sweet Robin Shaw doesn't need to wrestle. I don't even know what he did. Yeah, he got one good like weird spin kick off, but I was just like, this match was just... Real Money Brothers win with the signing bonus, because that's all they're about, is the signing bonus. And that's all I caught about them, and that's all I have to say about them. And the other two, well, Friendship Farm, well, they need to go back to the farm because this match was garbage. And it was just, it was, again, another long match, too. These guys went on and on and on. I'm like going, this needs to be, no, this is not. And the train said, woot.
If they wanted to use Gentleman Gervais as a low-card guy, just as a comedic wrestler, I could probably see him being built a little bit.
It had to happen.
The problem when you live next to a train track. You done yet? No?
Let him know. Gentleman Jarvis. Even the trains don't like Gentleman Jarvis. It's like, we're saying Gentleman Jarvis. Sweet Robin.
Alright.
The one match, and the train's like, no, bleep. We're going to bleep you out right away.
Yeah, perhaps as a solo act, Gentleman, or, what's his name again?
Gentleman Jervis.
Gentleman Jervis, thank you. I've seen him a few times. Again, another character from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. A little bit of potential for comic relief, but his tag team partner, just no. No.
No. Sweet Robin Shaw. Bye. Bye. Go away. Go back to your accounting job, your phone answering your job. Go back to working at the adult shop down the street, whatever it was before this, to go back. Or change your outfit, but you still can't wrestle. But I couldn't. I honestly thought he was almost.
After his physical presentation.
I
Didn't even worry about the match itself.
I got scared at first because he came down. I thought he was naked for a second because I was like, going, something's wrong here. Like, you don't wear skin pinky tight shorts when you're that white. You just don't do it. There's just some things you don't do in life. It's like when some of these female wrestlers wear like skin color pants, and you're like, are they wearing pants? Are they not wearing pants? But you know what? I just came up with a brilliant idea. Hey, Tony Khan, give me a call. We need to sign Gentleman Jervis to AEW. Go talk to Christopher Daniels, bring back Curry Man, and put them with Orange Cassidy, and then you can have the whole, I don't know what you call that, the hot and spicy, sweet and sour friendship connection.
I don't know about that one, but...
JK, total JK. No, they don't need to do that. But I just find it funny because I saw Gentleman Jervis, and I kept thinking of Curry Man. I was just like, I'm waiting for the...
I can understand why.
Christopher Daniels to rip off the mask and go, "It was me, Austin. It was me all along. I'm the higher power." And if you don't know about that fact, you need to go back and research your stuff, because at one point in time, Christopher Daniels was being looked at to be the higher power, except Vince McMahon couldn't see a little man being in charge of a big man. So...
You know, you look at Christopher Daniels, you look at The Undertaker. Yeah, who's the real higher power?
No, I know. It would have been really hard, I think, for all of us to look at Christopher Daniels then, and believe it, I think now, looking back on a lot of his character when he did in TNA, it'd be a different story. But back then, I kind of get it. So, but we digress. Then, the only guy I've actually liked on this fucking program came back and did another interview and has not wrestled. Huh?
I thought for some reason I thought it was Dickerson.
Yes.
Last week. It's Dickinson.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the interview with
and
30.
When you separate his last name out in a certain way, it sounds real bad.
You didn't have to go there. But anyways, they had an interview with Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson. And don't break it up to be Dickinson, because then you're just going to have bad images and it's not going to work. But the only highlight of both of these episodes have been this guy's interviews, because he can actually talk and make me go, yeah, I want to see you wrestle. I want you to see some... He right now is making me think of Kingston in AEW. They have that same moniker, like, I'm tired of being held back. So I definitely like what he's doing. I just want to see what he's going to do. Like, he's asking for a competition, so why aren't they giving him a competition? The only highlight that I've enjoyed in both these episodes is his thing. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. So then we go into the next match, which was the John Cena reject, Slice Boogie, who is the king of the concrete jungle. That was a moniker.
Wait, you compare him to a John Cena reject?
Yeah.
First of all, okay, he's kind of pulling the New York character. He looks more to me like Homicide. Other characters who have done that is Eddie Kingston. There's a lot of New York characters who have...
Yeah, well, it was just the fact he came out in the jersey.
About it.
It was more of the way he was dressed and the old John Cena thugonomic look that made me...
That's what I call it, the New York character. That's what I mean.
Yeah, well...
Like, there were other guys...
John Cena was Boston. He was representing the thug life of Boston, so... I don't know. Slice Boogie didn't do anything for me, and then I was upset because they gave me Carl Fredericks, who is on the main roster of New Japan Pro Wrestling, which they told us his moniker's the Alpha Wolf. He won the Young Lions Cup to advance to the New Japan Pro Wrestling main roster, and he was the first graduate of the LA Dojo. And I was like, sweet, so this guy should be something to watch or be entertaining. And we got another slow match where...
See, here's the thing. Yes, I would call it a slow match. I was actually more impressed with him than I was can't remember his name now. New York dude.
Oh, Slice Boogie.
Slice
Slice Boogie. I don't know. I just don't like the name Slice Boogie for one.
Neither do I.
But Slice Boogie did get his 21st Street Special, which is a mouthful. Which was like, what was it? Was that the thing off the ropes? I forget exactly what we did. It was interesting. And then Carl Fredericks, in the end, wins with either the jumping DDT or the execution, whatever you want to call it. Of course, he calls it Manifest Destiny. I guess you liked it. I kind of was like, it was a little long.
Well, I'm just saying, especially when you compare it to the rest of the card.
Well, yeah, it was probably one of the better matches compared to the rest of the card, but I'm still like, you hype somebody.
Looking at him as an individual in this match, I was more impressed with Carl Fredericks than I was Slice Boogie.
Yes. No.
I mean, it's like, to me, I can almost see this guy, you know, at least with a developmental contract in WWE, you know, to see what he could do further. You know, give him continue with the character, a storyline, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I just got excited when they told me this guy that's on the New Japan Pro Wrestling roster. And he's the first graduate out of the LA Dojo, and the LA Dojo's been hyped up. And, you know, he won the Young Lion Cup. So there was all these accolades they were building behind, and I just don't feel, I was like, okay, I was expecting a little more. So, then we got to see Aaron Stevens, or Aaron Stevens, A-R-O-N. And he's going... Yeah. And he's going to have a match next week with Trevor Murdoch, who I didn't know was still doing anything, because I forget, like, I know Lance Cade's no longer with us, but that's the last time I remember Trevor Murdoch. And
well, see, the funny thing with all that is, I keep going back to NWA Power, because they had brought Trevor Murdoch in, and you gotta remember, like, when we last saw him before that point, he was basically just a jobber in WWE.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like with Lance Cade, they did have a little bit of a tag team run and blah, blah, blah. But for all intents and purposes, he was low to mid-card.
Yeah, no.
He came in, started to NWA Power, started from the bottom, and made himself get over with the audience. Now, it's like, you still wouldn't call him a main eventer, but he was a draw.
But that's what you're fucking freaking supposed to do. That's what wrestling's about. You're supposed to come in to a federation, a new place, and get your name over. I mean, this is what guys have done. I mean, we'll go talk about Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre left WWE. You know, he got released, and he will even admit it. If you go on the WWE Network for $9.99, and we'll sell that pitch here. But if you go look up the review of WrestleMania this year, he tells you that, you know, he was the chosen one by Vince McMahon. He was given all this stuff, and he got too arrogant and all this stuff. And because of that, he lost his spot, and he had to go back and start over, and he earned his way up to where he is now, because Drew McIntyre then would have never been in the position he is today. The Drew McIntyre that went out and came back and earned it and had all the fan hype behind him coming up through the independents and Impact and into NXT and then back to the main roster to win that world title, that moment at the Royal Rumble this year where he, you know, Claymore kicked Brock Lesnar up over the top rope there. I mean, that was all set in motion by that comeback. And that's what a wrestler is supposed to do. When they leave and go into a new company, they're supposed to come up, you know, unless they're huge. Like Jericho did okay because he could go to AEW and he was he was the main star. I mean, that was their draw. They used him.
Even before that, he went over to New Japan to some shots.
Oh, yeah, he did. And he
deal.
reinvented himself, which Chris Jericho is simply amazing at, is that he has been able to adapt, redesign his character without, like, you know, completely changing everything about him, but he's been able to adjust enough over time, and that when he went to New Japan Pro Wrestling, he came up with this whole different variation of Chris Jericho, which is carried over into AEW, and he's even, you know, he's tweaked that a little bit because he's brought a little bit of his old self back, especially with the last few moments with MJF and Chris Jericho. And I thought it was hilarious when somebody said that they needed to make a sitcom with MJF and Chris Jericho. I'm like, that would be great, like a little 15, you know, a little snippet, like make these little, like, you know, like the Firefly Funhouse, but do it like them in a sitcom, like The Odd Couple or something. It would just be totally great TV. But that's what you're supposed to do. As a wrestler, you're supposed to go over to these places and remake yourself, reinvent yourself, come up with ways, and get the fans behind you. I mean, that's what we asked for, like, behind Roman Reigns. It's like, let him be healed so we can get behind him. Don't just shove him down our throats where we have to accept it because we're not going to play that game.
So now coming back to Trevor Murdoch and Aaron Stevens.
Yes.
They did start feuding in towards the end of NWA Power, and then COVID happened and Power basically has stopped.
Yeah.
Now, I had read before we started taping tonight, Nick Aldis has confirmed that NWA Power is not gone. Obviously, it's not being taped at the moment, but they do intend to bring it back. My guess is once the audiences are able to start coming back, because that's why they stopped Power in the first place. So to see that Trevor Murdoch and Aaron Stevens were feuding over the NWA national title in NWA Power, they were building that feud. To see that they will continue next week on UWN Primetime Live. Like I had told you, off air earlier, if this were Power, this would draw like gangbusters. We will see next week, I guess.
Well, and that's the thing that's hurting this whole Primetime Live thing. I'm like, they have huge main events. I mean, last week we had Nick Aldis defended 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World Championship, and what many people, if you ask, is the true world title for professional wrestling is the NWA title. If you ask a lot of people, that's what they're going to point to. You have your WWE fans who are going to sit there and say the WWE belt.
Because that's all they know.
The black one is the real world's title. Never will be the universal title. The universal title is the biggest load of crap I've ever seen, and the stupidest name for a title ever. It needs to be thrown out. Go back and get the big gold belt, which the big gold belt was a variation of WCW's NWA world title, but was never the 10 pounds of gold. The 10 pounds of gold got switched out of there right as WCW became more WCW and less NWA. I think that's more under Jim Crockett Promotions, but I forget exactly in the era of the new belt. But a lot of people think that's the main one. Then I'm like, no, and it's the real world title is the 10 pounds of gold in the NWA title. And we had a great match. We could have had a little better match, and we had a decent match, but that should have gotten over. This week we had two matches that should have been on there. An Eli Drake Watts match should have been pretty big coming out. And then the main event, which was Priscilla Kelly and Thunder Rosa, should have been big drawing matches. So, I mean, you can say Trevor Murdoch versus Aaron Stevens is going to be a big match, but I don't know, because I don't know what this and I guess this is not it's a company, yes, but I guess it's not the wrestling company. It's the the Universal Wrestling Network. So it's
okay. So let me give you a little bit of background about UWN. The whole reason why UWN became what it is. At one point, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. There was no Championship Wrestling from Arizona, which is their offshoot.
Yeah.
Company. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood was a part of the NWA under a previous regime.
Mm-hmm.
However, they didn't like things. There was some political behind-the-scenes stuff they didn't like. So, like a lot of other companies, they broke away from the NWA. Carved off ECW, among others. TNA.
Yeah, I was going to say TNA Impact. WCW.
And they formed they got together with some other indies and formed their own version of the NWA, which we now know as the United Wrestling Network.
Okay.
So that's why.
So these are a bunch of companies that suffer from the NWA, but they're still bringing talent in from NWA Power.
Well, yeah, I remember so this happened roughly about, I want to say, 2008. Power only became a thing a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But yes.
But now
when Billy Corgan had bought the rights to the NWA image, the intellectual property and all that.
After he got screwed with Impact and by Dixie Carter.
Yes. They started working together behind the scenes. That's why, so you would see NWA talent come over to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and vice versa onto NWA Power. And that's why you see this partnership now with the Primetime Live special events, pay-per-view events.
So are the talent in NWA signed solely to NWA, or are they?
To my understanding, particularly the title holders, yes.
Yeah.
Everyone else, because we've seen some people have left and gone to AEW. Ricky Starks, as an example.
Well, we just had Thunder Rosa have a match on AEW with the...
Yes, but she is still signed to NWA. Yeah. She's the NWA Women's Champion. So, like, there's some places they have agreements with other promotions, and some places, some guys have just Yeah.
I'm just curious because
everywhere.
if these are all created because they were separate from NWA, and then they have these people coming on here in the NWA, I'm kind of looking at going, hey, Billy, this show's not helping you. Like, it's not helping your stars look better. So I'd be like, no. I'd pull out of it if I were you, but...
By the same token, without these other televised, places, like you said, we get to see Thunderbolts on AEW.
Yeah.
We get to see some of these guys, now on this pay-per-view special. Obviously, you and I look at, like, it's hurting their stars. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, if they weren't working with these other promotions...
No, I know it's a way to get... Yeah, I know it's a way to get some of this talent and their name out there and get NWA's name out there again, because NWA really needs to get their name out there, and Billy Corgan needs to get the NWA name out there, because Billy Corgan has some good ideas. He tried to do some things in TNA Impact before it all collapsed, but he was really being held back by Dixie Carter and did get screwed over in that whole deal with Dixie Carter. But I know he, again, this is another person that is a fan, Billy Corgan. And if you don't know who Billy Corgan is, when we say Billy Corgan, we are talking about the Billy Corgan who is the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins. And if you don't know that, then I don't know what to tell you. Of course, we're a little bit of an older generation. The Smashing Pumpkins was a 90s band. I mean, they kind of held some remains into the early 2000s, but I don't know today if... I guess I should go ask my son if he knows who the Smashing Pumpkins are, other than songs like 1979 and Tonight, or Today, and... But I digress. I mean, the fact of the matter, Billy Corgan, I know he really believes in the wrestling business. I have a lot of faith, and I'd love to see, I would watch NWA based on the fact that he's running it, and hope that he's successful, because I think, we need some new stuff out there. And of course, right now, everything's screwed up because you have so many of the federations closed down, or these independent scenes locked down, or unable to do what they need to do. Like, we can't get NWA Power. I don't think Ring of Honor is back up yet, though there's rumors and speculation that they should be coming back just as much as Power should be coming back. But right now we're kind of stuck with NXT and the other WWE garbage, and AEW, which is kind of a hit or miss program. So it's kind of like the other things that we know that are out there are missing. So I mean, this is a great in theory, but whoever's running this crap sucks at what they're doing.
Fortunately, Impact Wrestling is also, available.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I'm a little worried about is when you look at the Bound for Glory main event, you're looking at Eric Young versus Rich Swann, and while I think it's a good story thus far, it just doesn't scream main event to me.
Well, I guess I've still kind of connected the Rick Swann to what we saw in WWE, and then I've kind of lost respect for Rich Swann, which was what caused him to kind of lose his position in WWE, the whole domestic violence issue, and I forget what the details to it all were now.
Well, here's the thing. If his wife had a problem with it, she wouldn't be, still married to him, still working in the same company as him.
Yeah.
At Impact.
Yeah, that's right. It was, I think it wasn't as big as it got made out to be, but there was other stuff. I don't know. It's really hard for me to swallow him in the main event so far. Maybe it's just because I haven't watched him in TNA, but then again, when they're presenting him as an injured guy coming back, and all of a sudden he's in the main event. But then again, they just brought back Eric Young, and he came out and just took the title off of
Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Edwards, yeah, I was going to say half of the American Wolves, but and Eddie Edwards just recently won that title, so it's title hopping.
The thing is, Rich Swann to me has not been presented as a main eventer, no matter where he's been, between WWE and Impact. I don't know about before, in smaller companies.
He had a great match against George Cassidy on the Independents. It was quite funny.
Oh, I'm sure it was in training.
But other than that, anyways, we need to get back to where we're going, because we're going to go off on tangents, because we could even get into NXT. And tell me who's coming back to NXT on October 4th. I don't know if you've seen that video. That's something that we definitely need to discuss, because it was interesting. Because if you go watch that video, there was 2 titles in that case. He wiped it down. There was 2 titles in that, or she, he, it, whatever, wiped down the case. There was 2 titles in that case, and it was talking about the old NXT titles. But there was 2 titles. When they came back, he was holding both titles in his hand. So I don't know if it's a tag team title, and I forget how many variations of the NXT World or the NXT title we've had. It's not a world title, excuse me, but the NXT title we've had.
I believe this will been two. Because there's the, I mean, cause a couple of variations on the original, the big, point, and they have the current where it's a little more rounded.
Well, all I know is there's two titles in that case. Both titles are in this guy's hands, and this is one person. So it's like, okay, if it's a tag team, that he's saying, I am back for what I want, because these things have been locked up. So it's somebody talking about the old titles. So there's somebody from previously, that was NXT, which is obviously a champion, is coming back to NXT, which gives me hope, because if it's for the NXT championship, there's only about 3 people right now that would even fit, that would be prior NXT champions that don't have anything going on in other places right now. And those...
I have to catch up on NXT, to be honest. I'm probably about a week or two off.
Yeah. Well, there was a big scene, and I looked at it, and there's only 3 people that have been an NXT champion. I haven't digressed to the women's, so I don't think it's a woman. I think the voice is trying to be the computer animated voice, or your quote-unquote Alexa, Siri, whatever voice. I just think that was the voice they used. It's not necessarily going to be a female. If it's a tag team, that's confusing, and that's what I'm still trying to figure out, because he pulled 2 titles out. But it said, I am back for, these things have been held out, so I'm thinking it's the old world title. So the old NXT world titles, there's like 4 people. I mean, there's Neville's one person that you could say was that, but I don't think Neville will ever go, or Pac will ever go back to WWE for one. The other people that don't have anything going on, you have Sami Zayn, you have Seth Rollins, who have been former NXT champions, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and then, some people are trying to say it's a return of Killer Cross. I'm like, I think it's too soon, and I don't get why they would make a new vignette like this for somebody who's fairly new, who just came in the company, and everybody else is gone. The only 3 main people that I can think of that are on that list is Bo Dallas, who we haven't seen in a long time, which I could say is making sense to bring him back to NXT. They could decide to take Joe back down to NXT and let him be doing this. And the other one that I'm really hoping more than anything, because I'd love to see Joe back in NXT, because they're not doing anything with the main roster, but I don't think it's going to be Joe, because I think they're going to hold him up there. Other than Bo Dallas, and I'd really like to see Bo go join Bray and do something with a new Wyatt family if they're going to do that, but the only other person is Robert Roode, which I'd be so ecstatic to have Robert Roode back in NXT with a new character. Of course, the way he was dressed just made me think of Robert Roode, because it was very Insanity-esque, almost Alex Your Back. It had all types of weird stuff on it. But anyways, this is...
I have a feeling that Robert Roode's going back to main roster, Raw specifically.
Yeah.
But let's get back to UWN.
Exactly, because after the last match, and after we got an interview from Aaron Stevens, we had a video package with Joey Galley in somewhere in Texas outside of Austin, where they did the video package for Thunder Rosa, introducing to her fans and whatnot. They showed some wrestling going on too, with women wrestling, whatever it was, wherever it was, which was just a confusing video package. I guess you call it a hype package. I get it, but it didn't do anything for me.
Normally, I would sit here and bust on you about, well, there's a lot of things that don't do it for you in professional wrestling these days. But I can understand, like you said, as a new fan, new to this, this program being new. And they're not telling consistent stories.
No.
They're not telling you in a way that a kindergartner should be able to understand what's going on, basically.
Yeah, but they didn't make a connection other than, okay, these were fans of Thunder Rosa. That's cool. That's fans.
The point of showing the wrestling match was because on commentary they kept also talking about how it's like they knew. Obviously, she's had her AEW stints so far at All Out, and then on Dynamite. This was one of the 3 times this week, that match, that she's defended the NWA World Women's title.
Okay.
So it's like, obviously win with, this pay-per-view event being the 3rd time this week.
Yeah. Well, my thing was, it was just they showed this video package, and it was like, okay, it was about Thunder Rosa, but it still wasn't enough to make me like go, okay, why should I be rooting for Thunder Rosa? Is this a story? There wasn't like some family, this is her hometown, or anything that was building to it to make me feel like...
I forget if she's from Texas or if it's where she lives now. I do tend to forget that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
She does have actual connection to it.
And I think that if they would have told this is a connection, and these people would have been more connected to Thunder Rosa, if they would have made this connection to Thunder Rosa and given me more reason to be like, oh, this is what this is about, this is why I should like her, maybe it would have gone over better. And of course, this led into the Thunder Rosa Priscilla Kelly match for the NWA Women's World Championship. Not just a Women's Championship, it is a NWA Women's World Championship. And we had Thunder Rosa win with the Thunder Driver in the Thunder Studio.
Word.
And we want to go Thunder. Just not in the dome. So it was a decent match. I was also kind of worn out from everything prior to this. Like, it had just worn me out trying to get to this last little bit. And I think this is a fairly long match, but I think they kept the pace. That didn't feel like a really long match, even though it was. But I think at this point I was worn out from it. Everything else had drained me because it was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then you give me a hype package for the main event, and it was kind of like, I don't know, you know.
I had so much hope and promise, especially with the connection with the NWA for this pay-per-view series, and show by show, I'm losing it. I don't know if I said it on air. I know I said it off air to you about just rage quitting this.
Yeah, well.
Now, anyone who watches this, I want you to understand, we are men of our word. We committed to 4 episodes, and that's what we're doing.
Yes.
If we were not men of our word, I would have rage quit this halfway through this episode.
No. Yeah, and I get that.
And it would not have come up at all.
And that's the thing, is that we're here to give you the value of wrestling. And the value of wrestling means sometimes, you know, we got to do things that we may not necessarily really want to do, and these programs are kind of hard to watch. I mean, again, if you have insomnia, if you're having a hard night sleeping, if it's just one of those nights, and you just need something to push you over the edge, put down the sleeping pills and turn on a little United Wrestling Network's episode 2, episode 1. I mean, you can watch episode 1 and kind of get yourself there. I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe if you got, maybe we're doing this wrong. Maybe we need to pull out a blunt and, you know, smoke a little blunt and then sit down and watch this. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe that's the key. Maybe they're high and they like this.
Have some, either stuff, a little bit of green or some alcohol or something.
Yeah, because this is bad, and you know, we're here to give the fans and our growing fans the best value that we can for the knowledge we have, the history we have in wrestling, and everything we do. And we discussed this off, and we'll be honest with you. I mean, there's no reason that we want to pull anything or, you know, mislead anybody with intent. Never the promise that we won't say something that we may have gotten as news or information that may become misleading and we come back and report it on later. But we're always going to be upfront, honest, and straightforward. And we did discuss off camera. There was a point where we were both maybe just like, why do this? But again, we did commit to 4 episodes. We want to give you these 4 episodes because we want to be men of our words, and we want you, our audiences, our viewers, now and the ones that will come along who are going to watch these later, to know that we're going to do what we say we're going to do and build that rapport with you, that we're just not going to give up when something gets a little rough, or we're just like, ugh. But, you know, life is what it is. Maybe next week will be see, I can't even talk straight. Maybe next week will be better. Maybe next week we'll turn a corner. Maybe somebody will listen to the pleas of the people who were talking about this. And I don't know how many people are talking about this. I haven't watched too many reviews per se that are discussing the United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live.
I think either Jeff Meacham from NoDQ.com or Aaron, I can't think of his last name off the top of my head, again from NoDQ.com. I think one of them has a review. I didn't watch it, but like, I've only seen like one posting about it.
Yeah.
I have seen no one else, no other podcast, no other nothing.
No, I haven't heard much talk about it. I don't hear many people talking about it. I know there's some uproar in the IWC that this is, not what they want. Of course, I think the IWC and as a whole is really in an uproar these days. I think there's been a lot of events that have triggered off.
For sure.
I mean, this week has probably been the shittiest week for wrestling in a long time because I think people are really. I think Vince really pushed everybody to the edge after Monday. I think Monday really, that's probably what really does not help this program, Primetime Live, episode 2, because they came on Tuesday. I know Impact Wrestling was hurting on Tuesday for part of their stuff, and AEW was. Yeah, it was okay from what I've seen. They had the return of Cody, which was a big deal. All in black. I don't know what they're doing there. He didn't really speak. They left these droplet hands like the Dark Order's gotten to him. That's why he's in black. And I'm going, no, he's not controlling the Dark Order.
We know Coach came off of whether it's that game show deal or he had some kind of acting role. That's why his hair is the way it is.
He's a judge on this stupid new program of talent. It's not America's Got Talent, but this extreme stunt bull. I don't know. I'm like going, why? I know. So that's kind of what he's doing. What is going to happen there? I don't know. I know he got turned down again to try to get the American Dream trademark. He tried to get Slamboree trademark.
Slamboree and the Match Beyond.
Yes, the Match Beyond, which was a tag name to one of the World War III's names, and they all got denied by WWE because they're not going to give that up. But really, this week got hurt. Retribution is the greatest scam in professional wrestling, and I think that sent everybody in an uproar, and everybody's just pissed. And so then, if you turn around and watch this shit after having to watch anything to do with money,
I actually have a little more respect for Retribution than this show.
I have zero respect. I have zero respect for Retribution. I have zero respect for them who are defending this garbage. Like, I get trying to do what you need to do to, be behind your character, but Shane Thorne, you want to be known as Slapjack wearing some fake-looking, I don't even know what it is. It came out of some anime or...
guys called him Slapnuts.
Yeah, he can be Mr. Slapnuts. But, and then you got Dominic Dijakovic, which to me rings like a good, strong name for a wrestling character. It stands out. But because his name is Dominic Dijakovic, and they have Dominic Mysterio, of course we know Vince McMahon's not going to let him have two people named Dominic on the show. But the fact of the matter that they pretty much just screwed his name to T-Bar. And then Dio Madden, who was on the commentating team for a while, and I think it was Brock Lesnar, if I recall, was the one that took him out. And now he's coming back as Mace. And they're all wearing, outside of Slapjack, who's wearing some rejected anime pop, what are those, Funko Pop vinyls, like Jason mask. And then the other ones are all wearing these wannabe Bane, half mask, half they wouldn't, be allowed to go anywhere else because of COVID masks that look like rejects. And then I worry about next week because I don't know what you're going to call me and Mercedes Martinez, because that scares me, because what are you going to call them? And then me and Yim's coming out on Twitter defending this stuff, and Shane Thorne, or Slapjack, as he is now known, is defending this crap, and I guess Dominic Dijakovic's celebrating his name as T-Bar, and the fact of the matter is I don't know what they're defending when everybody's telling them, and everybody's included, and every end of every network from James E. Cornette all the way to JD from New York and everybody in between has flat out said that these people's characters, their careers, and their future are dead. I don't know how you come back from it.
So here's the thing. We're talking about, was it T-Bars?
T-Bar.
What's his name?
Dominic Dijakovic?
No, the current name.
T-Bar?
T-Bar.
Yeah, that's Dominic Dijakovic's new name.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I could never get into Dominic Dijakovic. I always call him his Ring of Honor name, which is, hold on, give me a minute. Don't do that, you're going to throw me off. Now I freaking forgot it. I never call him by his WWE name because I can never pronounce it properly.
It's a mouthful, yes, I'll give you that. I will give you that. Dominik Dijakovic is a name that you really have to practice saying to get it right.
Dijak was his last name. It was another. His first name was another D name. I just can't. Because it was kind of reminiscent of his WWE name, but easier to say.
Let's see. Chris Dijak?
No.
Dijak. Donovan Dijak.
Yes.
Yeah. Donovan Dijak. So when he came to WWE, they switched him from Donovan Dijak or Chris Dijak to Dominik Dijakovic. He's from Worcester, Massachusetts. He was trained by Brian Fury. Very interesting. His real name is Christopher James Dijak. So now his name is T-Bar. And I know Shane Thorne.
They got it right in the sense of you can now pronounce his name, but it's the silliest shit possible.
Oh yeah, we are Retribution. I am Mace. I am T-Bar. I'm Snapchat. We're here to scare you. Like, no.
Are you sure you're not from Streets of Rage?
I don't know. Was this Saints Row? Or, is this some gang from GTA that we don't know about? Are these the lost members of the Insane Clown Posse? Is that what we finally found? Are these the rejected band members and band names of Slipknot? I mean,
JCW characters are more creative. Jugs of chess and shit wrestling characters are more creative than this shit.
But and Shane Thorne wants to celebrate this and talk about how great it is. I'm going. You went from a tag team TM61, if I recall correctly, and I believe you had the NXT titles.
Because originally, back in Australia, they were called the Mighty. They came to NXT. For everything, I think they went with the Mighty for a while, but then they went to just shorten it a bit.
Yeah.
So that TM61 bit.
And Shane Thorne's got some talent, but I'm telling you, you want to get in the wrestling ring wearing that stupid mask. And I don't know how he's going to wrestle in it, but you're going to wear that stupid mask, and you're going to allow yourself to be named Slapjack. Like, who
Here's the thing. I don't blame the wrestlers.
I do.
How? Okay, so you're going to walk away from a job?
Over that?
I'm not in a contract. If you sign a contract, as much as I want that teenage version of you who wanted to be in WWE so bad, because at the time it was the place to be in professional wrestling. Now, you're making a hell of a lot of money, and you're telling me you're going to just walk away and break your contract.
There's been plenty of guys who've been there that have asked for their release, and at this point,
and have not gotten it.
Well, no, but they did. They eventually did. A whole slew of them did. Miro asked, Mike Kanellis,
No one asked for it, but they also knew that there was another company or companies to go to.
No, these guys asked in the early part of this year before COVID came down. They were asking last year. I mean,
again, they knew there was other companies to go to.
No, and I know, and that's what I'm saying right now. If you are on the WWE roster, you have somewhat of a name. And people like, I think Shane Thorne could be okay in AEW. He could go to Impact Wrestling. He may not make a big name there. He could go to Ring of Honor.
I was never that impressed with him personally, so I might have a difference of opinion there.
Well, I don't know if I'm impressed with him, but I mean, if you came to me and said, we're going to put this ugly, stupid mask on you and call you Slapjack, I would say, let me go. I'm sorry. There is a fine line in what I'm doing as if I'm a professional wrestler and I want to be a professional wrestler and I've worked my tail off to become a professional wrestler, I have some respect for the business I am in, for the passion that I love this business. As that teenage kid that loved wrestling, that still freaking loves wrestling as an adult, and would do anything for the professional wrestling business to be back to where it was, not necessarily an attitude era going back, but being in that prominent spot where we could walk around and say we're wrestling fans and people go, oh, that's cool. Or nowadays it's kind of like, I don't really want to talk about it because it's crap. The fact of the matter is, yes, take me at that time when I was a teenage kid who would have given anything, my right teeth, my soul, anything to be a professional wrestler and to be the WWE. And I'd still love that opportunity today. Probably couldn't do it, have bad back, bad knees, and that's life. But the fact of the matter is I would still do it. But if you came to me, if Vince McMahon came to me and goes, I have this idea, I'm going to name you Slapjack. I couldn't do it because I would not want to carry that the whole storyline and the whole thing. Once you got to that point, I'd be like, I'm done. I can't do this because I couldn't give the fans what they deserve, and that's the best of me because I could not buy into that. I'd be doing the role for the money, and I would never want to do wrestling for the money, and that's what I think makes a difference and why some of the respect I have for Cody Rhodes, because it wasn't about the money. He wanted to do it differently, and that's why I probably hold AEW to a higher standard and say some of the crap they're doing at AEW sucks, and they need to get it right because they told me they were going to give me the opposite of WWE. They were going to give me something that I can believe in, and I believed in Cody Rhodes and some of these guys because it was not about the money. It was about the sport. It was about bringing back the sport they love. And that's where I draw the line of saying I couldn't be a guy named Slapjack. I couldn't play this role. I couldn't give the fans the best of my ability because I wouldn't be into it. Because I'd feel it would be an insult on me telling me that this is what my boss thinks of me, that I'm the Slapjack.
Now here's the caveat, though, to everything you just said about Cody and about those similar in his position. They had made enough of a reputation and enough money to be able to, if they needed to take time off to find another venue, another occupation, or, to go out and see what else in the wrestling world there was, they had, they could afford to do that. In theory, some of the people that are in Retribution should have that. Mercedes Martinez.
Has it.
Long-time indie veteran.
Me, yeah.
Well known, like I said, in the indie scene. As long as she saved her money, plus her, the little bit of time she was in NXT. I don't know what her NXT contract was like, so, but I can't speak on it. Again, Mia Yim, she had, TV time in TNA as Jade, as a part of Dollhouse. Which is kind of like the Beautiful People 2.0 in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, let's do this. I will pay you $1 million for the next year to play a character called Mr. Poop, and you're going to come down to the song Dookie.
Am I in a mask?
Half mask.
Okay. If I can do the role, because you know what I think these people are going to do, whether they agree with it or not, is at least write out your contract. I wouldn't resign with WWE after this bullshit, but I would write out the contract. Make that money, start putting dealers everywhere else you can.
But I mean, in this day and age where you can be released, have 90 days to no compete, as long as you have enough money to back yourself up, and maybe that's the plan you have to do in the interim, but I mean, I would put myself in a position of being like, I can't do this. I'd rather sit at home and lose my opportunity in WWE right now to go somewhere else and show my talent and do my best work somewhere else with somebody who would probably give me a little more respect than Vince McMahon is. Because Vince McMahon is taking 5 characters that I think 4, or at least 3 of the 5, I don't know a whole lot of what Dio Madden's done. He just looks impressive and thought he would get
As I understand it, he was training before he had his Raw commentary stint.
Yeah.
He was training in I don't want to say in the Performance Center, not in NXT per se, but in the Performance Center to be a wrestler. For whatever reason, they brought him up, for the Raw commentary run, and then I guess he wanted to go back into wrestling, so that's why they had Brock Lesnar, write him off.
Yeah. But I mean, we know Donovan Dijakovic had something going for himself. We know Mercedes Martinez had something going for himself. So me and Yin were all up in the upper echelons, the higher card, the upper card, if not the main event, in NXT. And that's all gone from you because now you've been promoted or demoted, however you want to reference it, to the main roster, and you're giving a whole different gimmick and a whole different name change. And here's the other aspect that goes into this. And I know we've definitely gone ahead and left the United Wrestling Network pay-per-view, but we've discussed that. We talked about that, and this is just a week of wrestling that people have to understand that a lot of us are hot under the collar because we're turning around going, this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. No, wait, what's going on? But you had three at least main eventers. Dio Madden is impressive. Shane Thorne may be just floating around and getting lost, but the fact of the matter, they built the way this storyline is. Then they brought these people in, and here's the thing: these are guys who are rebelling against a company that hadn't given them the chance. And then they come out and go, "We sign contracts so we can do whatever we want." Like that is illogical.
Logic flaw.
Then you change all these people's names that you were supposed to not know who these people are from NXT, but everybody knows who they are. So it creates another logic hole. Like, okay, so we're just supposed. It's not like they took these people away from TV for a couple of months so we kind of like get a little distance from them and maybe forget who they are or what they look like. So when you redid them, yes, you've got masks. Yeah, you're covering them. You're trying to make them look somewhat different. Of course, me and Yim doesn't look any different when you have the freaking blue hair. So I mean, I don't know how they went through and said, okay, yeah, you can keep your blue hair because it doesn't matter. Like, that's retarded. Like, that's a dead giveaway. Everybody knew that before because her hair was hanging out of her hoodie and everything. So that's how people caught on to that crap. But the fact of the matter is you took people that we already know what their names were beforehand, said now they're rebelling against a company that wasn't giving them a chance when at least 3 of them were in the main event in NXT. They were already under contract. Now you're telling me they signed contracts with Raw, and now they're here to grab the brass ring that they weren't allowed the chance, even though Mia Yim was in title contention. Mercedes Martinez had fought for the Women's Championship. Dominic Dijakovic had been in the NXT title reign and also just recently been battling for the North American Championship. So, the logic gaps are what really kill this whole story and really get irritating because it's like, unless you're totally going to build these brands separately and create them as individual brands, so far it's so through that you can make a differential. Otherwise, you can't bring these stars up and go, okay, you were this there, but now we're going to call you T-Bar or Slapjack. And let the fans go, no, that's Shane Thorne. No, that's Dominic Dijakovic. No, that's Theo Madden. The fact that, I don't know, you know, they said it. I think it's JD said it. There's a lot of people out there who looked at it. James E. Cornette just laughs and says this is the biggest joke ever. He doesn't know what's going on with Vince McMahon. But the fact of the matter is that there is a lot of talk in the rumor mill. And let's go down the rabbit hole for just a moment with me. Let's go down the impermeable rabbit hole and let's talk about, I can't even think the word, you know, conspiracy theory here, that this is Vince McMahon basically trying to make Triple H look bad. Because Triple H has done a better job overall in general, except for recently. And the more recently, what people don't understand is that Vince McMahon has now become involved with NXT. But the facts are that because Triple H made it and has his team of people that are working to do what they do in NXT and make great NXT, that the people on the other end, Vince McMahon and his team, Kevin Dunn, Bruce Pritchard, all those people Vince McMahon has around him, maybe not Vince himself per se, but all those people that work around Vince do not like Triple H and his team because they know if Vince gets kicked out of the position, they're all out of a job. One reason that they say Shane McMahon's come back is because the team that's behind Vince McMahon is still in good graces with Shane McMahon, letting us know that if Shane were to take the reins, that maybe these people would stay in place. So this is one reason a lot of people felt that Shane's come back, because these people under Vince encouraged him to do whatever it took to make amends or do whatever needed to get Shane back into the fold, because they want Shane to take over, because they don't want Triple H to take over, because if Triple H takes over, he's bringing in his own team, which is Shawn Michaels and
which is pretty common.
Road Dogg and the other people that have built up and work in NXT and make NXT as great. Matt Bloom, yes.
Yeah, Matt Bloom, thank you.
So, and again, there's not a lot of facts to
it. With that theory, the problem is it doesn't make Paul Levesque look bad. It makes Vince McMahon look bad since he has final say.
Well, exactly.
So,
I'm losing
blood. If that theory is true, Vince is still screwing Vince. Or the people around him.
No, Vince is screwing Brett.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. And,
I had you went there. No, and it's true. If Vince is doing this with the intent of making Triple H look bad, then Vince is screwing Vince, which makes no sense. But then again, I think...
And if it's his team, it's his team that's screwing Vince. Either way.
Well, yeah. And at the end of the day, it's garbage, but I'm going, even if it's Vince screwing Vince, again, I guess I can't be surprised, because I think Vince is senile. I think Vince has lost all... I don't even know what Vince is thinking about what's good wrestling, because you're talking about the man who brought the 80s, and yes, we got the bigger, strong... built man, and that was, the era of the Hulk Hogan, and the Macho Man got in there, and the Warriors, and the Yokozunas, and we know the golden era. And then, when that shifted and we went away from that, the big guys who more of the guys who had been carrying the car, the true wrestlers, the Bret Harts, the Shawn Michaels, whether you like Shawn Michaels personally or not, a lot of people admit that he was a great worker and had the skills.
For sure.
And then we broke even because Vince McMahon was pushed in the corner by Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff, for 84 straight weeks, had killed and beaten Raw.
83.
83.
That's the name of Eric Bischoff's podcast, that's why I remember. And that's specifically why it's called that.
But 83 weeks, WCW beat the living snot out of WWE. Very much so, to the point that they will admit that WWE was about to go under. Like, WWE was not going to be around much longer if something hadn't happened, and bam, the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin, the evil Vince McMahon, the Attitude Era, they let go, the Generation X, and all these things came together and presented themselves miraculously that it completely turned the tide. And because of Eric Bischoff's own egotisticalness, where he gave away the win of Mick Foley winning the WWE Championship, which everybody wanted to go see because Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, Mankind, Dude Love, whatever you want to call him, we all were so endeared and so in love to him because of what he had done over the years. For anybody who was a true wrestling fan who watched him all the way back into the WCW days as Cactus Jack, and even prior to his original WWE day as Mason something, Jack Mason or something. He was in WWE before this,
along those lines.
under a stupid moniker. But anyways, he had earned that right. And if you were a WWE fan and never watched him prior to that, you fell in love with Mick Foley the day him and The Undertaker tore it up in Hell in a Cell. And that had solidified him in this place. When that man went flying off that cage, went down to the table, was getting carted off, and then got back up, climbed back up the cage, and then went through the collapsing cage, you had a whole new respect for Mick Foley at that time. And at that time, that changed everything. And when they gave that away, Mick Foley was like, everybody wanted to see Mick Foley win the world title because he earned it. But
absolutely.
I don't know what's wrong with Vince. He was able to create these great moments, has had great people around him to make these moments, to where we are now, where he's just like pissing on it all, like he's ready to burn it all to the ground. And again, the theory is he only cares about the casual fans because he believes the casual fans are what are buying it, and the smart marks and all the people that have quote unquote ruined the wrestling business because we're too smart or we're into
well, here's the problem. There is back, like when the internet first started, there was a great divide between the casual fans and the smart fans. The problem now is the casual fans are the smart fans. There is no difference these days with as big as the internet is now. You either watch it or you don't, and most of the people who watch it also are on the internet. Whether it's watching highlights, whether it's discussing with other people in forums or on social media or whatever it is, there is no great divide anymore.
No. Everybody's in the know and everybody knows what to expect. And I think we're going from an era where we like the shock value, but now we're going back to an era where we want to see the performers perform. And that's what makes NXT great. That's what makes some of AEW great. It's what makes NWA on its own great. What makes them great is allowing the wrestlers to wrestle and do their moves and do their stuff, whether it's the high, flying, fast moving or the slow, methodical. As long as we get to see them wrestling and they can draw us in and we can feel that these characters are real and not just jokes or treated as, 1 week you're in favor, nope, you screwed up, now you're in favor. And we're like going, okay, we don't know what's going on. And then there's this Sunday, which I'm scared to death. I am so scared of Sunday night. I am petrified to even watch Clash of Champions. I'm just, it's, I don't know. Yes, we're going to watch it. Yes, we're going to review it. We went off on a tangent. WWE is just, I don't know if Vince is senile, losing or whatnot. There's a lot of rumors and speculation. But I know Sunday I'm scared. I am scared because I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if there is stories, rumors, reports that Vince McMahon has reneged on the Roman Reigns heel turn and wants to slowly turn him back face, but kind of leave him tweener. And that they're going to have a competitive match between Jey Uso and Roman Reigns.
I don't like the idea of a competitive match. I mean, I know last time we talked, we were both essentially saying that he should beat him down. I'm better with the idea of a competitive match compared to I just think there's probably worse ideas in Vince's head. So I mean, if
Well,
all it is a competitive match, that's not that bad of an idea.
it can't be. I'm sorry, I'm still a firm believer. It can't be a competitive match because it makes no logical sense in this idea. There is reports, and it was tweeted to The Rock, and The Rock has come out saying that he would come out and wrestle at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, and would willingly take the loss without needing a rematch to get his win back.
Yeah, I saw a video where Rock basically said that.
So. The short argument has suggested is that he runs through the whole family. He's got to run through the whole family. Jimmy, bring back Rikishi. You can bring back you can bring back Sika, because I think Sika's still around, and have him go down. I mean, you run through the whole family. You talk, he trashes the family. I'm the tribal chief. I'm the best thing out of this family ever, which would bring The Rock back. That's the only way it's going to work. But if it's this Sunday, he needs to beat Jimmy up. I mean, it needs to be just a slaughter. But yeah, no, that's kind of the odd news that I'm hearing on a Sunday, that either it may be a competitive match and they may be switching Roman back to a tweener. Then The Rock came out and said he would do this, so I don't know. They just need to go full heel. Roman's supposed to have a new look. He's going to take his shirt off. Yay! I am not excited about that. And supposedly new music.
Not a big deal just because what was it? It was either FCW or early NXT. Well, no, because then
he was in the tiny trunks.
FCW, or it's like, okay, because they were talking about this on Steven Larson's Going in Raw, and it's like, they were right.
That's
Dude does not look the same. It's not a big deal for him to take his shirt off.
No. It'd be nice for him to get rid of that protective vest crap he wears. But anywho, I don't get that. Hopefully he does get new music, because he does need new music. That's one thing that should set this in motion. Hopefully he goes full-born heel and just beats the snot out of Jimmy. Everything's there to say he should. If Vince pulls out of this now, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, Sunday, we're going to sit down, we're going to watch Clash of Champions, we're going to give a great review. Hopefully it's good news, not bad news. Hopefully after Sunday we're not chugging back the Clorox bleach and just saying fuck it off.
Scarily enough, even with all their mistakes, I have more faith in the WWE than I do the United Wrestling Network.
I can only pray for the United Wrestling Network. I can only pray that somebody wakes up and goes, okay, this is not working.
Because if nothing else, what the WWE always had to the best of their ability is their production values. Their little glitz, glamour, and there's something that the quote-unquote casual fans can still say ooh and ah about. Especially in the Thunderdome.
And the sad part in it all is the WWE. I don't know. I've lost faith in WWE to an extent of, like, if this is what you're selling, I don't know what to tell you, because this is. And I think the other part that hurts them is they have NXT, so they give us all these great stars. We get excited about it, and then they come up to the main roster, and then they get flushed down the drain, and we're like Finn Balor, huge. Had an opportunity, got injured, came back, and they never did anything with him again. Bobby Roode, freaking great. One of the greatest theme songs in wrestling history. One of the greatest theme songs. Because it's not like...
It's a great entrance. I don't know about greatest theme song, but that's because I'm partial to Shinsuke Nakamura's original theme.
Well, yeah, but Shinsuke had a great one, too. But I mean, everybody got behind it. It's like Sami Zayn. Everybody got behind. You had the crowd invested in it. And this is what I consider, to be a great theme song, great entrance, is because the fans are like singing it, humming it, going out there. It's just like when the fans in AEW sing Chris Jericho's Judas back to him when he's coming down the ring. You know you've done something when you got that. And they had this great character with Bobby Roode, glorious Bobby Roode, and then they went to do some rip-off of Rick Rude with Robert Roode with the the same mustache and the robes, and I was just like, do not make that connection.
I mean, Robert Roode, and I'm calling it Robert Roode now because that's what he was called in TNA.
Yeah.
He's done the growth thing. Like, the only thing that made him different between his TNA run and his, main roster run, if you will, it's a great, theme song. But the gimmick itself, he's done before.
No, but he never really made a connection of being like connected to Rick Rude. Like for a minute there, for a little bit WWE, he had shaved off his whole beard and only had the mustache like Rick Rude, and they were just
that's what we used to call the 70s porn stash.
yes, and they were calling him Robert Roode for the first time in the company, but they were making all the references to him. They wouldn't say it was like somebody related to Rick Rude, but they were making him like this whole rip off of Rick Rude in the modern era, and I'm like, no, you can't do that, because Rick Rude was in his own right, whether you loved or hated Ravishing Rick Rude, and if you hated Rick Rude, then I'm going to tell you this, he did his job, because he was absolutely one of the best Intercontinental champions of all time, one of the best champions. I don't know if it was an NWA championship or the WCW championship in WCW, first time he was there, because he was even better in WCW. If you really go back and look at the time he had in WCW, he did a whole lot more and was a whole lot better. And the Dangerous Alliance was amazing. Why they can't get Paul Heyman another Dangerous Alliance would be just awesome right now. But anywho, that's another tangent. But Rick Rude had a great time in WCW and was the world champion. He never got the world champion in WWE, which is fine. But they can't make Robert Roode be Ravishing Rick Rude, and that just killed me right there, because I'm like, no, don't do that. If he wants to be Robert Roode, then he needs to. Robert Roode needs to come back, and Robert Roode either needs to rip off the $1 Million Man and do Robert Roode TNA era Big Money Roode, or he needs to go back to being the real glorious Bobby Roode, and even he needed to come into the main roster heel, but they brought him in babyface because the theme song was over. But Shinsuke Nakamura's theme song is amazing, and they screwed that up, and they screwed him up too.
Well, I understand what Shinsuke's thing, why they gave it lyrics, because when they turned him heel, and they knew fans were not going to be able to sing to that with the lyrics, and especially being in Japanese and whatnot. So it was like, I get it. It kind of worked.
And still singing along with it. I wouldn't be so mad at a Shinsuke heel turn if they wouldn't have done it so crappy.
Agreed.
That's what hurt it. Was the way he turned on AJ. It was just kind of like.
And that's what they made the thing, was just
for the longest time it was the low blow by Shinsuke Nakamura, and you're going, if you go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling and watch Shinsuke Nakamura, and the fact of the matter that Shinsuke Nakamura and New Japan Wrestling went one-on-one with Brock Lesnar, and they had an amazing match that was longer than like 10 minutes. Brock Lesnar actually had a real wrestling match. And you see how amazing that they work together. Shinsuke Nakamura has all this talent. He's come to WWE, and now they've tagged him with Cesaro, which is also sad because Cesaro is so full of talent and can do so much. But they keep him in this tag team. Shinsuke could do so much more, and it would have been better for him and AJ to have a straight face-to-face match at WrestleMania. They did not need to turn Nakamura heel at that point. They could have done that later in a different way, which would have been so much more meaningful, but Vince doesn't care. Vince hates us. Vince wants us all to just, I don't know, I think Vince wants us all to stop watching so he can just, I don't know. Anyways, we are...
You know when he said he was injecting poison into his own product? He may have said the NWO, but Vince became the NWO.
Yeah. Anyways, this is... been the United Wrestling Network review. That's what this originally started as. It progressed from there because it has been a real crazy week in wrestling. If you're not following along, then, I don't know what to tell you. Get out from under the rock you're living in and get on the train because...
or stay there for a while until something actually good happens.
Well, yeah, you could hide under your rock and pray that something good happens. I don't know when that's going to happen. It may be 2022 by the time that comes along. Anywho... the fact of the matter is, this week has been a crazy week in wrestling. WWE's Retribution was a joke. United Wrestling Network was the bigger joke on everybody this week. AEW barely kind of held it together with high and low spots. NXT gave us something to go, who's the mystery man? So at least they're giving us something to go, okay, we want to see who's going to show up at the TakeOver event on October 4th, which is going to be on a Sunday. So, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. So that's going to be another big event. hopefully we didn't screw up with Retribution, because they already gave us 3 members of Retribution, but the main event of Survivor Series is supposed to be Retribution versus WWE, and people are confused if this is going to be a mixed gender match with the 5 members that we do know of Retribution, or if they're going to add more members to Retribution so they can have a 5-on-5 men match. And of course, we could also manipulate this whole thing, because CM Punk has been involved with Retribution and tore into Shane Thorne and Dio Madden over their gimmicks, and they all spat back at CM Punk, and they're in a Twitter fight. So maybe this is CM Punk confirmed, because why not? They could be.
God, I hope not.
Well, they could be screwing us over, making us think that they're going to fight with CM Punk just to bring CM Punk back as the leader, which might be a saving grace.
I understand the theory there. That was an easy road to go down. I still like to say I hope not.
I don't think CM Punk's going to come back unless it's the right money and the right thing. And I think the only way you ever bring.
This is the wrong story for him.
Yeah, this is not a place for him to do it. The only thing he would have right now is, because this is a heel faction that I don't really see. And then you got the Hurt Business, which was very confusing on Monday Night Raw, coming out to defend WWE against Retribution, and then you had Cedric Alexander go one-on-one with Apollo Crews in the middle of Raw, which made them heel again. And at the end of the show, here they are coming out as, I guess, babyfaces again, which is really illogical booking again.
I look at, because of the context that the Hurt Business is in, I look at them as more as tweeners, because you're right. They're trying to portray them as heels, but they're defending WWE, so I understand why you sort of have the face look. That's why I think I look more as tweeners, depending upon the situation to put in.
No, the only way I think you bring CM Punk back, and it's not Retribution. I mean, I get why you would say Retribution, because CM Punk wants some Retribution on WWE, and it makes total sense, and he would be one of the few people that this storyline would be made for. The people they brought in, the logic gap there is, why did they want Retribution? Where did they get screwed over by WWE in any form, other than the fact that they got their names changed to some terrible gimmicks? But, I would get CM Punk, but if I was going to book CM Punk, right now he would be going after Seth Rollins. And I don't say CM Punk necessarily needs to be the hardcore babyface. I think he needs to be that tweener, babyface, but he's not afraid to get...
He needs to be a smartass regardless of his alignment.
Exactly. I think he needs to be the smartass himself. He's here to redeem himself. Fuck, he can still talk shit on to man and drive every... fight bomb, but right now the match that I would say, and it may be repetitive for some people, but right now the only person I can see bringing CM Punk back to go against would be Seth Rollins, and that's only because Seth Rollins is doing the Monday Night Messiah gimmick, and I can see CM Punk going, why can't you come up with something original? Because that was kind of his gimmick with his buddies beforehand when he was doing the Straight Edge Society. So that's where I would put Punk. But again, I also might not bring Punk back, and I would make Punk a surprise in the Royal Rumble, let him win the Rumble, and then do a 2-year run. Let him have the title at WrestleMania, and then run it until you find somebody that's at least decently earned or been built up to take that title off CM Punk. And I mean, you could do that with a lot of people. Heck, I'd like to see a CM Punk Finn Balor match where Finn Balor takes the title off of Punk. That would be awesome. Other than that, Clash of the Champions this weekend, this Sunday. Clash of the Champions Sunday. And other than we have Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, right? Did Keith Lee get in that match? I forget. The Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Andrade, because they won
match number 2099.
Yeah, because they won the triple threat match, even though we thought that team was broken up. Like, what was it? Who were the three?
The week before.
Andrade and it was Andrade and Angel Garza, Seth Rollins, and his disciple Buddy Murphy, or is that Aaliyah's boyfriend? I forget. Isn't that when a report came out that Aaliyah's dating Buddy Murphy? That's kind of what they're aiming towards. No, well, I think in real life they're dating, from what I've understood. So.
Yeah, but of course that's something along those lines. I believe you're right.
So don't quote me as that is fact. From what I understand, yes, and that's kind of why they're reading the storyline. So those two teams from like a week before looked like they had split up. Like Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins were on the outs. Angel Garza and Andrade run the outs, and then they face the biggest newest tag team in WWE, Humberto Carrillo and Dominic Mysterio, which makes you go, what the fuck are you doing? How do you take Dominic Mysterio up here, and now he's in a tag team match in like some mid-card section to take on the Street Profits? And you knew they weren't going to win because it didn't make logical sense, but then Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy didn't make sense, so they gave it to Angel Garza and Andrade because you don't have anything better, which the only thing I could say is that Charlotte's coming back. Maybe they'll line Charlotte with them and it'll make sense.
They're not known for their logical storytelling.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing that scares me.
I don't have much hope for that.
That's what scares me about Sunday, is like how illogical is Clash of the Champions going to be. Just like the fact that right now they are talking about Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks in Hell in a Cell, and it's stupid. The only logical point I've heard that would make sense, and I've also heard that the storyline is, and what Vince wants, is that Sasha Banks is going to win Hell in a Cell and take the title off of Bayley at Hell in a Cell, which is too damn quick and ruins and kills it all, and it's a waste of time. The only way you do this is to take out Sasha. Okay, you want to put him in Hell in a Cell? You have to let Bayley unleash Bayley Fury, and Bayley just needs to throw Sasha all over that place. Hell, at this point, you have to throw Sasha off the top of the cage. And take,
I don't know about going that far, but...
Well, I'm talking about this has to be over the top. You have to injure... Because they're talking about... See, here's what they're talking about. Is somewhere in the next few weeks before this pay-per-view, Sasha Banks is going to have to retire because Bayley's going to attack her again. And she's going to have to kayfabe retire because of her injuries. Only to come back in a short period of time to be like, oh, I'm back and I'm taking you on in Hell in a Cell. No. You don't do that. You throw it out the window. You take these two girls into Hell in a Cell and you let Bayley throw Sasha off the top of the cage. Which... Okay,
I'm sorry, when Mick Foley, we were scared. Someone who weighed a whole lot less. Like,
yeah, but they've got it safer now, and they can put a crash pad down in the Thunderdome. They can hide it behind the guardrail. You move the guardrail in, you throw it behind the guardrail, you throw her off where she lands on that spot, bam. And then you don't show a whole lot of footage, but you make it look like she's been seriously injured. You take her off of TV for the rest of the year. She comes back at the Royal Rumble.
I've got no problem with your idea of taking her out. It's the specific method I'm not...
I know that's drastic, but I know it's got to be, like, severe. Like, Bayley has to just beat the living snot out of her, and I don't see her just... I mean, it's got to be kendo sticks, tables, chairs, steel cage. I mean, it's just got to be a brutal match of Bayley just unwinding on Sasha Banks that we have to really believe that Sasha's injured. Then you give Sasha the kayfabe retirement spiel, have her disappear until Royal Rumble, have her win the Royal Rumble, and then WrestleMania is where you have that match. If you screwed up at WrestleMania events, or you screwed up with Hell in a Cell and you give Sasha Banks the title at Hell in a Cell, and if you continue the fucking storyline that you fucking have going on with freaking... I should take that back. If you continue the storyline you have with Sasha Banks that she can win the title, but can never ever retain the title, I'm done. Because, I mean, that's just ridiculous. At this point, the only way this works is that this match is at WrestleMania and let Bayley, yeah. But I digress. We're at Clash of the Champions this Sunday. We're going to watch that. We're going to do our review on that. We're going to get that out to you. Right now, tonight's been crazy. We went to go over the United Wrestling Network's pay-per-view, episode 2. We will be reviewing next Tuesday. Well, I won't say next Tuesday, but we will be reviewing episode 3 next week, and we'll get you another podcast out on that review. Pray that it gets better. But because we're here for you, to give you the value of wrestling, we're going to grin and bear it and grit through it. So, but it's been a lovely conversation tonight. We've gone all over the place. We've kind of talked about everything, but I think, there's a lot that needs to be said. I did my rant after Monday, and I'm still not ready to be over it yet. Hopefully there's some redeeming quality, or they just throw the whole thing out the window. That would be the best thing, just to be like, yeah, this isn't working. Because the reporters or the people in the backstage area were laughing at the name and the looks of these people in the mask. The backstage workers, the crew, were laughing at these people like it's the biggest show. The IWC's laughing at everybody in Retribution, and I just don't know how any of the 5 that are members of Retribution right now can stand up and go, yes, but this is going to be great. You don't understand. Like, there's not much to understand.
When over 90% of the people involved are not even in the business, and we have a better understanding of this business. something's wrong.
Well, and when you have the backstage laughing at you, that's your name, it's your mask, and thinking it's a joke, and making jokes about it backstage, which has been multiply reported on different sources, there's something wrong. Like, that's where I probably draw the line. I'm like, I'm getting laughed at because of what I'm doing out here, so I'm a joke. No, I'm not going to be a joke. I'm not going to put my life out here doing what I do day in and day out because I love this business to be laughed at. That's when it draws the line. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. Santino Marella, did he get laughed at by a lot of people? Yes, but that was what Santino Marella did, and that's what he was happy to embrace. And has
There's
never.
a difference between being in on the joke, like we're laughing together, as opposed to being laughed at.
And our truth embraces that role. So I mean, but when you're being laughed at because you're in a role that's been created and it's supposed to be this big in-depth storyline, Retribution was supposed to be this gigantic storyline, and then it comes down to this garbage. And of course, we probably won't see Retribution at a pay-per-view because we never see Retribution at a pay-per-view. They just seem to be like non-existent. Every Raw, every SmackDown, they're there. But
well, we'll see now that they have contracts.
Yes, that's the illogical gap. Why are these people Retribution? Rebelling against WWE.
It was their weak argument to why they were here to begin with. It was their weak excuse.
And it's even worse that they're like bragging, we got contracts so we can do whatever we want. We're like, okay, well, you were already doing whatever you want, apparently.
Exactly.
What did you sign in the contract that gave you more authority? Like, none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense now. It's like the storyline's really dead. They got contracts. They didn't have to, and I don't know why they just gave them contracts. Why not at Survivor Series? They're fighting for the opportunity to get contracts because that would have been more into the storyline they were telling. Just to be like, here's contract. Who signed it? Did Vince McMahon go, hey, you guys are great and entertaining. Let me give you a contract. Which is the whole storyline gap. If you're trying to make these people different from the people we know them as, then let's go down that road. But why did you just give them contract? Why would anybody hire people? If you own a business and you have people coming in and destroying your business every day, are you going to offer them jobs just to to get them to stop ruining your business? I mean, it's very irrational to me that you would go, here's some contracts.
But that's because you're basing your booking on logic.
But wrestling is about logic. But wrestling is about logic. You cannot write a storybook without logic. You cannot write a story without logic. You can tell a story.
Apparently you can. Not very good one, but apparently you can. Yes.
That's the point. You can't write a good story without logic. If you're going to go illogical, then shit's not going to make sense and it's going to be crap. And that's what WWE's been presenting to us for I don't know how long now. Crap.
This is the same company that used to make fun of Dying Days of WCW for not making sense. They are now Dying Days of WCW.
So what we're saying is Vince Russo's running stuff in the background. We just don't know about it yet.
I wish we at least understood Vince Russo, did things for shock value. We didn't have to agree about it, but we understood why he did it. We can't even make sense of Vince McMahon right now.
Brother, let me tell you, brother, because we're going to do this, brother. Brother. And so today and right now, before we go, I need to do our bros. We need to do our faces of bros. Let's do happy bro. Bro. Let's do excited bro. Bro. Let's do sad bro. Angry bro. Scared bro. Bro, Matt Riddle, you're a joke. I hope you know that you're straight a joke now. You got to the main roster and you become the biggest joke. And it's probably because you ran your mouth too many times. Wanting to fight Goldberg and wanting to fight Lesnar, you spoke too soon and you're a joke now. If you're sitting on TV going, bro, legitimate threat, main roster, biggest joke. Next thing we know, it'll be Bro Truth as Matt Riddle and R-Truth will be the tag team to tag up and win the tag team titles. And then we'll get really excited because he'll create what will happen is R-Truth will still have the 24/7 title and he'll get another title made and they'll be the 24/7 tag team champions. Vince, don't do it.
Bro.
the only reason you look so worried and palm face like that is because you know there's a slight bit of possibility that could be something that happens, and that's what's scary.
Word.
Ladies and gentlemen, I guess we need to like we love coming on here. We love doing this, and you know we give you our raw, honest feedback, and whether you agree with everything we say or whether you don't, and that's totally cool. And we appreciate you being here every episode we come on, and we hope you come back.
Just remember, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, learn to love it. Good.
Whether you like it, whether you hate it, just remember to come back here and hit that thumbs up every week. Hit that subscribe button. And as my counterpart over there does with his favorite song.
Go ahead and ring that bell.
Yes, make sure you ring that bell for notifications so you know whenever we upload another hot video of Value of Wrestling. But with that all said, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you. We hope to see you here after Sunday. We should have it right after the pay-per-view's over. We should be together, so unless something happens, we should be live. Well, we won't be live for you, but we will be together live and in person. We will be in real life on one set to give you a full, honest, and truthful review of Clash of the Champions 2020. But for now, I think it's time to say goodbye, good night, and see you later, because this has been the Value of Wrestling Podcast. I'm the big time BT Baldwin. This over there, right there, is the tag team partner, Paulus Clark. And you can't teach that. And we're out.